Hello and welcome to this late financial video on SAP Business One tips and tricks. And what do we want to achieve from this video? Well, we're looking at increasing our efficiency when using SAP Business One. We're going to look at how to speed up a few processes, and hopefully we'll learn some new functionality. Now, the tips and tricks I'm going to be showing you can be split into several areas. So first we'll cover keyboard shortcuts. That's just looking at speeding up your navigation and workflows within SAP Business One. We'll look at some screen customization so we can better suit SAP Business One to your business needs rather than the default setup. Looking at user-defined fields, how to create your own account attributes for analysis and then report on them. We're looking at queries, so creating ad hoc reports beyond the constraints of the typical system reports. And finally, we'll end on formatted searches, which can allow you to auto-populate fields and increase information visibility and efficiency. So coming first into keyboard shortcuts, I'm going to show you a few to do with the date system. So let's say we're opening a sales order. Fine, if we're just going to choose our customer. And I don't know if it bothers you, but I always find it quite frustrating. If we are inputting the delivery date, I'm not the biggest fan of having to open up a little calendar and click, moving through the months, moving through the years. It can be quite clunky. So a good little shortcut, if you want to input the current system date, you can tap any single letter on the keyboard. So you'll see if I just put the letter T in, or change this, bring it out, we just put the letter D in. It's just going to bring back the current system date, which means you're not going to have to load up here and click on the date you need. Sticking with date shortcuts, if you know the amount of days between the posting date and your delivery date, say your turnover is typically a week, you can tap plus and 7, and that's just going to load in 7 days after the current system date or today's date for you. Again, if you know it's going to be a month, you can press 31 or 30 depending on the month you're currently in, and it's going to load that. I think this is quite a good one if you're looking at service contracts and you don't want to have to tap come through 2019, come through, you can just press plus 365, because obviously there's 365 days in a year, and it's just going to do the maths for you and load in 365 days later than the current system date. Now, if you don't know exactly how many days fall between your posting date and your delivery date, but you know it, you can input just a quick sort of formatted system date. So let's say it's going to be the 25th of the 6th. We don't have to bother with the dots or the year. If you're posting in the current system year, we can just put 2506 in, tab and return, it'll bring back, yeah, and 25th of the 6th for you. Now, staying with shortcuts, hopefully a couple of people will be familiar with these. We have in the toolbar, we can come down to My Shortcuts. I haven't got any loaded in just yet, but this is where they'll exist. And we can customize. Now, these are the F keys or the function keys, which typically run across the top of your keyboard if you're using a conventional keyboard. And what this allows you to do, you can actually map these to functions within the system. So we see in this drop down box we can map keys F2 through to F12, and in this left hand pane we have all the different modules, and then in the Windows pane we have the functions that exist in the modules. So say you're a finance user and you frequently use journal entries and you want to access your chart of accounts quickly, you can choose F2 financials, and we can choose journal entry. Simply clicking allocate, we know that's going to be mapped to the F2 key. If I show you what that looks like in My Shortcuts, here we are, same for F3, and we know that's going to be our chart of accounts. So simple as pressing allocate, press OK. You won't be able to see me tapping the keyboard exactly, but to give you an idea of how quick it is, it's, well, if you heard the keyboard click, you'll know it was very quick. And again, for F3, you're not limited to how many of these windows you can pop up. Say you want to input several journal entries back to back, we can just keep loading these on top of each other. That's not a problem at all. If you are sick of having this many windows open, this is quite a recent release, maybe 9.3. We can go into Window and close all, or close all but topmost. Just a little shortcut to clean up your screen. Now, in marketing documents, this is quite a good one. I find myself using it quite often, not just in marketing documents, actually in any field that contains a table of information behind it. So if we come into sales order, we don't know our exact customer name. If we want to just press star, it's going to return all the information after we press tab about the business partners, because that table exists behind the field for customer. Again, if we want to do this in business partner master data, that's not a problem at all. We can just tab and enter, and it's going to bring back your list of business partners. You're not going to have to manually cycle through them or sort of guess at names. Probably more relevant in item master data, where there's quite a few more records depending on your business, of course. And here we'll have a full list of items. So next, staying with marketing documents, this is a little one I found quite useful. If you have a certain business partner, maybe a vendor or supplier who you do repeat business with, it's not on a given set date, so maybe using a recurring transaction isn't going to be the best option. Hey, we take the same 10 items from MaxiTech incredibly regularly. It's always going to be the same 10 items, or maybe it's going to be 9 or 8 from the same set of 10. We can choose this. If we right click, we can save as draft. Now when you save an item of draft, we come down into sales reports and we look at our document drafts reports. From here we can refine it into just sales, purchasing, stock, and stock counting transactions. So we'll just want to see our draft documents for sales. Here are your document drafts, both for MaxiTech. I obviously had one in the system from the 10th, but on the 23rd here we can see the document I've just created. So if we click on the golden arrow, we're brought back to our report. Maybe we want to edit a few quantities. And as long as you've got the availability in the system. And if we want to choose our delivery date and add the sales order, you might think, okay, the draft's used up, it's only the draft for one sales order. That's not actually the case. So if we come out of document drafts to show reloading the form, if we try to re-add, maybe we don't want a line or two, we only want to take 8 items, and we're going to re-add the document. You can say draft is closed, do you want to generate another document from this draft? If yes, that's fine. It's not going to update your original draft with the lines you've just taken out if you've amended some of the quantities. Oh, and make sure we've got our delivery date in there. We can simply add it, and here's your template for a sales document. Again, you can do it for purchase documents and stock transactions. Yeah, just a little tool. I know a couple of people use this personally. Just quite effective. And next we will look at renaming some fields. Again, if you have on your business partner master data records lots of fields that you don't use, perhaps the telephone 2, you're never going to use that. Alias name, if you want it to serve another function and you don't want to create a user-defined field to show that function, if you press Control and double click, you're going to be able to change the description of that field. Also make it bold or italicize it. but this is only a cosmetic change. If you want to run queries on this field, you're still going to have to run it to alias name, not we'll call it example field. And there we are, changed. This isn't actually by user, this changes it in the whole of your database, so just bear that in mind. But yeah, rename obsolete fields, turn it into something useful for yourselves. Should yeah, restore default before I forget what it originally was. And finally, the last little bit on sort of maybe keyboard shortcuts. I suppose this is more cosmetic looks. If we come into our top bar on the top, we have form settings. I use this all the time just because I like a really clear and concise center sort of field in marketing documents. If we go into form settings, here we're going to be able to pick and choose the columns which actually exist within the field. So if we know we never apply any discount, that's fine, we can just take it off and immediately your discount is gone. Come back into table format. Here we can also have user-defined fields in here as well, but you're going to notice there's a lot more options to choose from than the system sort of makes available by the default settings for any form. You can see it's quite a comprehensive list. You can even sort of have address in from your business partner documents. That will update obviously when a customer or supplier is input in the top left hand corner. You can have cost of goods sold account, any quantity, so you can get a better view of your stock without having to go into your master data records, quantity in warehouse. Just quite a good one. It gives you a lot of freedom and really allows you to get more out of your marketing documents without having to search for the information from other sources. Coming through, if we'll come back into business partner master data, I mentioned some screen customization. I appreciate that the sort of out of the box setup isn't going to be relevant for everybody. You can see here, this is just a demo database, but I have quite a few unused fields. So again, coming back into tools on the top, and we can choose edit form UI. This will be down to the individual user. If you want to change it system wide, you'll have to edit the UI configurator and the templates. I'm not going to go into that, but this will be down to the individual user. You'll notice we are locked in the form. We're not able to leave it at the moment, so OK and cancel won't work. If you were to do this within a marketing document, you wouldn't be able to send out a sales order while you're in UI edit mode. But just right clicking on some of the forms, here we can hide it, we can disable fields, so you're essentially just making it read only. If we press and hold on the remarks, we can actually move the field over to the side. We can resize these if necessary. Just going to give you a lot more freedom over your system. Again, we can create new tabs. If we want to call it more information, be down on the end. If we're going to bring up our user-defined fields, so that's in view, user-defined fields, I'll come on to their creation and reporting on them in the section after this. Since it's a shortcuts menu, it's Control-Shift and U to bring that up without having to go into the menu. We can drag these across and we can put them in the main field. If we want to, obviously you want to make sure everything's aligned correctly. And we'll just leave UI edit. After making quite a big change with within the UI edit, I think it's always better to save, come out and then go back in to make sure the changes are cemented. You'll have noticed I was actually moving the tab itself. rather than the boxes below it. So yeah, just make sure you're leaving the form and then you're coming back in to make your changes. Yeah, if you don't like the current tabbing system, you don't like the way it looks, by all means edit it. And if you're not content with your changes, you get the really quick restore default. And if we come out, yeah, incredibly quick. It's just going to allow you to customize it, suit your business needs, rather than the out-of-the-box setup. If you want to, I don't know, say remove all of your fields which hold no data, condense it all into one column rather than the two spread over the screen, it's just going to look a lot neater and tidier. So while we're on user-defined fields, how these work, you can basically create a field on any screen. You can do this on the business partner master data, you can do this within sales and purchasing documents, and you can then go on to report on these. So you're essentially giving yourself unlimited account attributes to report on, hold analysis on, and this is done through going to tools, come down into customization tools and user-defined fields management. What I prefer to do, rather than navigate around the screen, if we see the box in the top right, we can either search for data or we can search for menus. Again, more keyboard shortcuts regarding that, Control and F3 and Control and F2 to swap between. But if we search user-defined, it's going to bring up user-defined field management. If you're using a particular screen a lot, we can actually just double tap in the box and it's going to bring up your most recent searches against you. So while we're in the user-defined fields management screen, these are all the categories or all the places you can actually hold user-defined fields. See, there's master data, marketing documents, and through production, stock, service. So it's basically across all of the modules. We know we want to create them in master data, and again you're given yet more choices of where they are going to be held, if it's against items, resources, employees, users, but we'll stick with business partners, and again you can define it more either against the contact persons, the addresses, but this is against the actual business partner record. You're going to see a few greyed out lines. Those are existing user-defined fields in the system that I've made before. You'll notice account manager. I think that's a really powerful one, obviously depending on your industry and the way you operate. But let's say we use different service levels for contracts within our company, and we'd like to display that in the business partner screen. We're going to click add. The title is the name which sits in the system, so you're not going to be allowed any spaces. Go serve, and level, and description is actually the name that's going to sit on the field on the screen. So we'll give that service level. We are allowed the space in it. And this is where you can choose the type. Is it going to be alpha, numeric, a time and date, a unit and total, or just a general field? And again, structure, if it's a telephone number, you're obviously not going to be able to put letters in there. If it's an address, that's how it will format it, if it's text. And validation, probably the most important from this screen. You can link it to entities within the system. There are more advanced settings, but I don't think we have the time to sort of go into them. User-defined fields could have a whole video on its own. It's that sort of complex, and the things you can do with them are incredibly powerful. So we're going to link it to valid values, because we know we have a set amount of values against service level. Color value is G, because the description is going to be gold. S for silver, no prizes for guessing B. You can also set a default value for that field, so every time you create a business partner, that's going to be loaded in, and you can make the field mandatory, which yeah, very useful if you're missing out some key information when you're creating new business partners. It's not going to let you add that business partner without entering this field, but we'll leave the two boxes unticked for now. You'll get a system message. It's basically telling you that your database structure has been modified. You're going to need to close all the windows in the database before you proceed. So again, be polite to give anyone else using the system a little bit of warning. So we're just going to add that, and we can see service level has now been added to the user-defined fields. When we take a look at this in the business partner master data, you notice it's not going to be there. You probably actually saw my user-defined fields menu on the right hand of the screen earlier. So Control-Shift and U, since we're all about the shortcuts, and we want to go into Tools. We want to edit the form UI and simply bring that over. There we are. So if you want to save, leave form UI, and here we have gold, silver, bronze. I'm just going to update a few records so it's going to look a little better when I show you the reporting side of things a little bit later. So we'll do 3 gold and a couple of silver. So I mentioned queries earlier. That's creating ad hoc reports. You can basically report on any field that's held within the system, and there's a few ways to build these. You can go through in Tools and Queries. You can go through your query generator. You can go through the query wizard. It just depends on how familiar you are with the system. I've always gone straight in with the generator because I think it's quite easy to pick up once you have the basics. I would advise you do a little self-learning online, speak to a consultant if you have one available, but you can generally pick it up quite quickly. So inside the query generator, we have this window. It probably doesn't mean anything to you if you are not familiar to it. So how it works, in the top left box here, this is where we input the table in the system. You know, I mentioned star earlier. We can press a star and hit tab. It's going to bring up all the tables in the system. If you want to search by description, we can search here, business partner. All tables in the system do have a name against them. If you're not sure what it is, we can come up into view, into system information. Again, the shortcut for it, Control-Shift and I. And if you look down in the bottom left of the corner, after we're going to see variable equals 1, we see OCRD, and that's going to remain largely the same for all of the information in the header and all of the columns in the system. That's because the table name is OCRD. So we're going to create just a little query based on the service level of our business partners that we've just created. Once we have the table selected, if you are using multiple tables, you're pulling information maybe not just from master data, if you're pulling it from sales information as well, it will create the join for you. It does a lot of the hard work and the heavy lifting. So in the report, we want to show our business partner code, we want to show our business partner name, and tapping these and putting them in select, I'll just show you by executing it quickly. These are the columns, this is the information it's going to show you when you're choosing it in the select option. We'll pick the contact person, if we want the telephone number. You can also search by description, have it going sort of A to Z. The email. Now, if you've created a user-defined field, these are always going to sit at the bottom. So here, just as a basic report, we can see the information we've selected. We can see business partner code, the name, their contact person, their contact details, and the service level we have created and put against them. Now, if you want to shorten this process, the where box actually provides your parameters for the search. So these are also held in conditions. You can choose where service level is equal to, and you remember the values we put in for the box, this is where we search them, so G for gold, S for silver, B for bronze. If we execute this now, it's only going to return information with the service level of G next to it. You don't actually have to include your parameters within the select box, so we know the service level for all of these are going to be G for gold. We don't need to include it in the box because, well, the parameters are there to inform us that these are just gold service level business partners. Yeah, that's just a quick one. You can get incredibly complex with queries when you get sort of a basic understanding of SQL and querying with SQL. You'll start to realize, oh, I can link X table to Y table and return information across a broad range of tables, but again, for that we'd want to do a video just on queries. So I said we were going to finish on a formatted search. What a formatted search allows you to do, or in the instance in which I'm going to show you the men, they actually include a little bit of a query. But it's going to allow you to auto-populate fields. These can be system fields and user-defined fields, which I'm going to show you both, with system information from other tables, or even with sort of user-defined values. So a couple of the little ones I think are powerful. They'll just give you a flavour of what you can do with them. Say we're in an AR invoice. You'll notice I have these user-defined fields on the right pane. I'll just bring these into the main window for you. And yes, I'm aware they're not perfectly aligned. Yeah, so say we have a customer and you want a better understanding of their account balance while you're in the AR invoice screen. Maybe you don't want to drill down into the customer record and come down from there. What we can do, the shortcut to add a formatted search, I suppose, at its instance, is putting user-defined values in. We can go into Tools, Customization Tools, and User-Defined Values Setup. Again, there's a shortcut, that's Shift, Alt, and F2. And here is where we set up our user-defined values. So a system without any, or a field without any, is naturally without search in user-defined values. You can search for existing user-defined values, or to really get the full use out of a formatted search, we're going to search in existing user-defined values according to a query. So here's a query I created earlier. It's called account balance formatted search. In the query manager, I'll show you how it's actually made up. If you don't know anything about dynamic syntax, again, this might not mean a lot to you. So it's selecting balance from OCRD, which we remember is our business partner, the code for our business partner table, where card code, which is actually the top left box, equals, and that sort of $ open brackets $400 is the dynamic syntax for business partner code. What that is basically saying is bring the balance into that box where this business partner code matches the business partner master data record. In essence, sorry, it's quite difficult to explain if you don't have the best understanding of it. So here we are, we'll use our account balance formatted search. Now if you add this naturally, here you'll have the magnifying glass, and just to show you the information is correct, yes, it's 27,286 and 26 pence. You will have to tap to change the values every time. So there we are, it changes. What you can actually do, and I would always recommend auto refresh when a field changes. You can refresh regularly, or you can display a saved user-defined value, which we are going to do. And because this is being based on the customer code within the form, we are going to select, where are we? Yeah, the customer and supplier number, again, would be the same for the customer and supplier name. You'll see from the list, you know, there are so many values in here which you can have it changing upon when they are refreshed. So if we choose parameter technologies, there we are, the account balance field is going to automatically change for you. In the same way, I've created the email and telephone query if we just want a little bit more contact information about our business partner from the invoice form. If you want to query something with them about an invoice you're inputting, I'll show you the query. Very, very similar, email formatted search, and it's select email from the business partner master data table where card code equals, and the same dynamic syntax. So that's just about everything we currently have time for. Hopefully you've learnt a thing or two, whether it be about keyboard shortcuts. If you weren't familiar with queries and how they work, that's not a problem. Yeah, so thanks for attending.